They sold 432 Park Avenue as the most exclusive residential address on Earth. $3.1 billion in luxury rose 1,396 feet from a 93-foot base. But behind those floor-to-ceiling windows, walls creak, elevators stall, and more than 500 design defects now fuel a $165 million lawsuit. The engineering decision that doomed this skyscraper comes down to a single number. Developers behind 432 Park Avenue saw a rare opportunity in Midtown, a slender 93 by 93 foot footprint that could be stretched nearly 1,400 feet into the sky. The logic was simple and lucrative. The higher the floor, the bigger the price tag. Units above the 80th floor commanded premiums of 20% or more, fueling an internal revenue model that projected $3.1 billion in sales. The spreadsheets told a clear story. Each additional story of height unlocked millions in extra value, with the most dramatic gains concentrated at the very top. But this chase for altitude came with warnings. Meeting minutes from the city's Economic Development Committee noted that the 1:15 height-to-width ratio would push the tower into a class of buildings known for extreme wind response. Engineers at WSP, the structural firm on the project, flagged that the natural period of the building, how much it sways, would exceed comfort limits set by the city's own guidelines. A memo from WSP, later submitted as evidence in court, laid out the risk. Wind tunnel testing showed sway accelerations up to 15% higher than recommended. The engineering team advised that additional damping or a larger footprint could bring the building back within accepted standards, but those changes would eat into the projected profits. Instead, the financial model won out. The 93-foot base stayed. The developer's own sales director, under oath in the 2021 lawsuit, admitted that the decision to keep the slender profile was driven by an $800 million revenue uplift projected for the upper floors. Comfort and caution were weighed, measured, and ultimately set aside in favor of maximizing return. In the end, the building's most celebrated feature, its impossible slenderness, became the source of its deepest vulnerabilities. Wind doesn't just push on a skyscraper, it sets up invisible patterns that can shake a building to its core. At 432 Park Avenue, the wind's dance around the square tower triggered a phenomenon called vortex shedding. As air flows past the rigid 93-foot-wide face, it forms alternating pressure zones, peeling off swirling vortices at regular intervals. The tower's own natural sway frequency, measured by RWDI at about 0.2 Hz, lined up almost perfectly with the frequency of these wind-borne pulses. That meant even moderate gusts could set the entire structure in motion, amplifying side-to-side drift and rattling everything inside. To fight this, the design team tried a layered approach. 6 open mechanical floors spaced up the tower were supposed to act as wind corridors, breaks in the facade that would let air pass through and lower the pressure on the building. Lab tests suggested the gaps could cut drag by about 30%. But the real-world data told a different story. The open floors reduced the overall push, but they didn't change the underlying rhythm of vortex shedding. When the wind hit just right, the building still swayed in sync with the air's invisible beat. As complaints piled up, engineers turned to a more active fix. 2 massive tuned mass dampers, each weighing around 660 tons, were installed between the 86th and 89th floors. These giant pendulums were tuned to the building's main sway frequency, designed to absorb energy and calm the motion. But even with this hardware in place, the tower's sensors recorded a dramatic event on October 31, 2019. A 71 miles per hour gust struck Manhattan, and the top of the building drifted nearly 5 centimeters, well above comfort thresholds for residential towers. The open mechanical floors and the new dampers together could not fully suppress the resonance. For residents, the technical promise of stability clashed with the lived reality of a skyscraper that moved more than anyone expected. Maria moved into her 85th floor apartment expecting quiet luxury. Instead, her first spring brought a surprise. Each morning, she found her marble fruit bowl had shifted nearly 2 inches across the kitchen counter. On windy nights, the walls let out a low, steady creak, sometimes loud enough to wake her at 3 a.m. In her diary, she wrote, "It feels like the building is breathing. Sometimes the doors won't close, and the floor seems to move under my feet." She wasn't alone. By the end of the first year, the condo board had logged more than 200 resident complaints about motion, noise, and strange vibrations. One neighbor described the sensation as living on a gently rocking boat, while another said, "My chandelier sways even when the window is shut." During a gusty week in October, Maria recorded the sound of her apartment, a rhythmic groan that matched the wind's push. She sent the audio to building management. The official response? The movement was within design limits, but the daily reminders, shifting countertops, misaligned cabinet doors, and the persistent, unnerving creak told a different story. For many, the tower's promise of stillness and exclusivity had been replaced by a constant, uneasy motion that no one could ignore. Water, electricity, and trash, systems that should run quietly in the background, became daily reminders of the building's hidden instability. In 2016, a pipe joint on the 84th floor failed, unleashing a flood that damaged multiple units below. Maintenance logs from Lend-Lease, the construction manager, traced the rupture to flexing supports overstressed by the tower's constant sway. The fix was temporary. Over the next 5 years, service teams responded to a steady stream of water hammer events and cracked pipe brackets, each incident a symptom of deeper mechanical stress. Elevators designed to whisk residents from lobby to penthouse in under a minute began to falter as well. On a windy afternoon in June 2021, a sudden gust triggered the building's wind protocol, halting all elevator service. One resident was trapped for 90 minutes at height, while technicians struggled to reset the system. Engineers later found that elevator cables had slapped against the shaft rails, a direct result of lateral building movement. Routine elevator shutdowns became a recurring feature whenever winds topped 50 miles per hour. The HVAC system, too, struggled to adapt. Ductwork mounted to the shifting structure began to vibrate in resonance with the building's sway, producing a low-frequency whoosh that echoed through apartments, especially between the 50th and 70th floors. Requests for duct realignment and seal replacements spiked, filling maintenance logs with complaints of rattling vents and unexpected drafts. Perhaps the most bizarre consequence emerged in the trash chute. During strong sway events, the pressure inside the 1,300-foot chute would surge, sending debris hurtling upward before slamming back down in a blast of noise and broken bags. The cause? Rapid vertical acceleration, momentarily reducing gravity's pull, then snapping back as the building settled. Each of these failures, isolated on their own, pointed to a larger pattern. Internal systems pushed to the brink by forces the design never fully tamed. On September 23, 2021, the board representing 432 Park Avenue's residents filed a sweeping lawsuit in New York State Supreme Court. The complaint ran to hundreds of pages and cataloged more than 1,500 alleged design and construction defects, with over 500 directly tied to engineering and mechanical failures. The damages claim started at $125 million, but quickly escalated to $165 million as new problems surfaced. Cracked facade panels, repeated flooding, elevator malfunctions, and the trash chute's violent pressure surges. James Kay, the lead attorney for the condo board, described the situation as a parade of hidden dangers, citing expert reports that linked the building's slenderness and cost-saving substitutions to the ongoing failures. The suit named the developer CIM Group, the construction manager Lend-Lease, WSP Cantor Sinuk, and other key firms, arguing that the project's most celebrated features had become sources of risk and loss. The legal filings included engineering memos, resident complaints, and maintenance logs, all pointing to a pattern of systemic issues rather than isolated mishaps. The case did more than demand repairs. It quantified the financial and reputational stakes for a tower once sold as the ultimate address, now facing the prospect of a courtroom reckoning. The lawsuit's ripple effect was immediate. Within months of the legal filings, price tracking reports showed resale values at 432 Park Avenue, dipping 15 to 20% below their original asking prices. Listings that once boasted record-setting square-foot numbers lingered on the market, sometimes slashed by millions to attract wary buyers. The tower's brand, once synonymous with exclusivity, began to erode in the eyes of brokers and analysts alike. A senior real estate analyst at Miller Samuel described the building's new reality. 432 Park went from a crown jewel to a cautionary tale almost overnight. Headlines about cracked walls and elevator shutdowns replaced glossy marketing campaigns. For owners, the promise of a blue-chip investment gave way to a sobering calculation: how much value had evaporated, and how long would the stigma last? The building that once set the pace for luxury now found itself struggling to hold its place in the city's pecking order. Luxury towers still climb ever higher, but 432 Park Avenue stands as a caution. Prestige and price can't override physics. As cities chase record-breaking skylines, the stakes are no longer just financial. They're structural, legal, and human. Even the world's tallest ambitions must answer to reality.